good morning, and welcome back to another episode. As I'm preparing this, my mind is still in the mountains. It was an inspiring trip, but it was also a challenging trip. And today, I want to share an aspect of climbing with you that doesn't immediately come to mind when you think of this or any other sport or fun activity. I mostly talk about the fascinating parts: nature, the physical and mental challenges, time away from everything and with fun people. But there is another challenge that has to do with the learning of the sport. Just like with any other sport, you can train in a variety of ways. Gym workouts to work specific muscles, visual learning by reading about the sport and watching others. Maybe some cross-functional workouts such as cardio to increase stamina. But in climbing, it's very important to actually do the sport, to go out and climb, and as much as you can. Climbing is unique as it involves nearly the entire body's musculature. Running, cycling, rowing, and most gym workouts teach the body to perform consistent and repetitive motions. Climbing is a more complex form of movement. I am in good physical shape. I work out regularly. I have a decent amount of muscle mass, but yet when I climb, my body is working hard. I huff and puff a lot, especially on the hard moves. And since every climbing surface is somewhat different, the muscles needed to perform vary each time as well. Research suggests this kind of dynamic muscle activation is much more challenging and fatiguing than simpler, repetitive movements. And that is what I feel on those harder climbs. The more you climb, the better you get. This is true for any sport, but in climbing even more so. Because the movements are so complex, isolating them and training them individually is just not as effective. For example, I can do bicep work in the gym with weights. This will definitely help strengthen my muscles. But until I use them on a very specific route, combined with all the other muscles that are involved at the time, balance, confidence, and knowledge, that is when it all comes together and the skill of climbing is built. That is why I try to get out at least once a week, because I have a lot to learn. My balance is still off. My footwork is not where it's supposed to be. My cardiovascular strength needs to improve so that I'm not so fatigued after just the approach. And I lack confidence, which definitely can only be gained by climbing more. In order to get better at climbing, I depend on a partner. Not just any partner, but a strong leader who climbs ahead of me, places gear that is safe enough to hold me should I fall, and someone who knows the route. There are so many variables in climbing. It's not uncommon for leaders to get off route and end up on a much harder route. While the leader may be able to climb it, I may not. So much depends on the leader, and this becomes clearer to me every time I climb. The leader has to look out for his or her own safety and that of the follower. And as a newbie, I depend to a huge extent on my leader. To select a route, he feels confident he can lead and knows I can climb. Because if I cannot climb it and fall, he may have to rescue me. Sounds scary. And to place protection that I can reach and remove safely. And then to take me back down from the mountain safely. This may involve a long, steep down climb or rappel. It requires navigation skills, excellent rope management skills, and the ability to be flexible in case things don't work out. Weather may interfere, ropes get stuck, anchors can be loose or missing, people ahead of us may delay us, and there are all the other delays that are caused by me because I'm still new and slow. Let me tell you, my dear listeners, recognizing this has humbled me in many ways. Sometimes I forget the responsibility my leader takes on, and I want things my way. On this trip in Red Rock, for example, I had my mind set on a route I really wanted to climb. But my partner said no, and he had valid reasons for his decision. It was tough for me to accept. I struggled. I pouted. I was disappointed. I blamed my partner, his character, our different personalities. But then I thought about it more. Maybe, I thought, I'm not looking at this correctly. And while it took me some time, I slowly realized a few things that I want to share with you. They don't just apply to climbing. Climbing makes for a good example, but they apply anytime you are learning from someone. And sometimes we don't even realize we are being taught. Lesson number 1, listen. Easier said than done. As a newbie, I know so much less than my leader, which by default creates an imbalance. This can become an issue when your teacher is also your friend or even your partner. It makes listening harder when other emotions are at play. I don't have much in common with my climbing partner other than a passion for climbing. Yet, we are still 2 human beings spending a lot of time together, and conflicts arise naturally. When someone takes you under their wing, dedicates their time and efforts to teaching you something, then your opinions matter very little. I still struggle with this. I want him to say things differently, be nicer, more considerate, and so forth. But those are expectations that don't have much to do with learning how to climb. What matters is that I listen, because that shows respect for the knowledge the other person brings. On the side of a mountain, several hundred feet high, equality matters little. Surviving is more important. When lives are on the line, it's not a good idea to nag or complain to your leader. It's best to suck it up. Even if their tone of voice is harsher than you desire, or the choice of their words is not the most appropriate. If they mean well, if they are teaching you, if they are keeping you safe and have your best interest in mind, then it's best to listen for that, not for other things that matter very little. The teacher has to take on a leadership role which automatically makes me a follower, and a follower needs to listen. Lesson 2. Ask, but don't question. 2 different things, and I have a hard time distinguishing between the 2. Asking when I don't understand something sounds easy, but I don't always do it. I either assume I know it, or subconsciously I file it away to be addressed later. Instead, I question my partner's statements and assumptions, often in the most inappropriate moments. When I reach the top of a ledge and need to be clipping into a carabiner for my safety, I should not question why I'm using a certain type of knot. I should do what I'm told and ask for clarification later when we are both safe and on the ground. We often don't notice the difference. We think we're asking, but in fact, we are questioning because we doubt, and with doubt comes distrust. But we have to realize if someone takes time out of their day to teach us, maybe a mentor that listens to your challenges at work, or a person that offers to help you craft your resume, or a friend that helps you apartment hunting in your new city. They mean well. Maybe the delivery could use improvement. Maybe they could explain things more clearly. But questioning them shows lack of respect. It not only frustrates your teacher, but it makes them feel that you don't really want to learn. Ask instead. Lesson 3. Be humble. Asking is being humble. Asking is admitting that you don't know. Questioning is assuming that your teacher doesn't know. Not recommended. When someone knows more, I have learned to bow my head and take it in. It's not my time to show what I know. It's my time to learn and take it in. Even if I know a little, or think that there might be an easier way. Later, I can take a different approach. But first, I have to master the craft. In climbing, this means sticking to the plan and not trying to change things last minute. It means following the instructions provided by the leader. When he says it's time to leave, we leave. This is not about who is the boss. It's about safety and responsibility. And this took time for me to accept. When your life is not on the line, this may not be so critical. However, you should always show respect by being humble accepting feedback graciously, and acknowledging that you just don't know as much as your teacher. Remember that later, when you are the master, you can adopt your own style and change things. And lastly, lesson 4, give credit. This is only possible when you follow the first 3 lessons. When you don't listen and question your teacher, then you are less likely to see the value they add to your life. I always say thank you, but I didn't really realize how grateful I should be until this last trip. Yeah, I may have bought lunch for my partner, or maybe I paid for gas, but real gratitude doesn't come in material things. It shows in your entire demeanor, and it reflects in all 4 lessons. Listening and following instructions. For example, when the decided start time in the morning is 6 a.m., you are ready by 5:50, there to assist your teacher in helping him get ready as well. Being on time is critical, and it shows that respect in a very clear way. Asking questions and showing a willingness to learn. For example, when you study on your own and then come with questions to your teacher, it really shows that you care. Anyone can poke holes while the mentor is there. But when you go out on your own and try to learn and practice, it demonstrates that you are in it 100%. For example, I will send my partner videos of me tying knots while we are not climbing. He gives me feedback via text, and that way, when we do climb, I can actually focus on climbing because I have my knots down. Being humble and acknowledging that you don't know as much as you think. For example, every teacher has their own method. Respect that and learn it their way, even if you have been shown other ways. I sometimes mix things I learned from other climbing partners. Doing so means in essence that I am questioning my teacher. And then showing an appreciation for the person with your words, your actions, and your attitude. And the best way to show gratitude is focusing on the common connection that you two have, which is learning a craft. Everything else is secondary. Learn as much as you can. Be a step ahead by practicing on your own and arriving prepared. Acknowledge your teacher's efforts with kindness, punctuality, and preparedness. When you are invested in the process, it will show. And all this is not easy. I'm not an arrogant person, but this was hard for me to learn. My ego always wanted to exert itself. It has its own agenda and doesn't like to follow those of others. But I have found that when I surrender to the lesson, when I trust my teacher and his decisions and make the best out of every lesson, that is when I learn the most. Everything else is resistance. It goes without saying that this applies whether you're paying your teacher or getting lessons for free. If someone teaches you something without charging, then it's even more important that you follow all 4 lessons. Otherwise, the teacher may not stick around for too long. I hope you found this helpful. It's amazing how much I have learned through my climbing adventures. While I don't always want to use climbing examples, I can't help but notice how well they apply because they have really taught me so much. Until next time, my friends, much love.